It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever, Wally.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yeah, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, breaking news, culture, and medical warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live from Dallas, Texas, the location of BitBlock Boom this year. We are going to be live streaming from Dallas for the next couple of days, and then we are going to be having the Simply Bitcoin news desk from the floor of BitBlock Boom. We're going to be having a lot of interviews with different Bitcoiners. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm extremely excited. And for the first time in channel history, we will be streaming the BitBlock Boom conference to the Simply Bitcoin channel. So it should be a whole lot of fun. Hopefully we get some great interviews for you guys in between the panels of BitBlock Boom. It's going to be awesome. But anyways, back to today's theme and topic and what we're going to cover about what we're going to talk about today. So Cynthia Lummis, the Bitcoin senator, was and shout out to Bitcoin Magazine for live streaming it, and also the Bitcoin Policy Institute, and of course shout out David Zell for putting this together. But there's a huge event in Washington DC with policymakers and senators and congressmen and women, all to talk about Bitcoin and digital assets and the kind of regulatory environment in the United States. And there's a lot of stuff that was revealing. If you haven't been watching Simply Bitcoin, if you've been watching Simply Bitcoin, none of this should come as a surprise to you. Of course, we haven't had any direct confirmations. I mean, that's not true either. We've had a couple smoking guns, but yeah, I mean, they're starting to say some of the quiet part out loud in terms of there are people that obviously don't want this thing to succeed. We also have a video for you guys from the head of the Bank of England. I think his name is Andrew Bailey, announcing that the Bank of England somehow has an Instagram. So it kind of goes into what we're talking about the importance of this information narrative trench warfare that we're fighting in the battlegrounds of the internet. Now, here's the thing. Bitcoiners have a home field advantage when it comes to internet memetics and internet narrative. Like the internet, that's our home field advantage. Like we rule that, right? So we should definitely be able to win that game. Government's really only weapon to attack us on the information level is just censor speech. Like that's their go-to movement. That's what we covered on Monday's episode in regards to Brazil and the Twitter files and everything that was coming out. So as long as we're able to just highlight the truth and just keep beating the battle drum, I think enough people are going to awake over time. So we're going to talk about Cynthia Lummis today. Also, I have an article for you guys as well. Quote is an article from Crypto Slate, and it says U.S. Senator claims Biden administration uses crypto as scapegoat to mask failures in halting illicit finance, right? Again, shouldn't come as a surprise to you for any of the Simply Bitcoin listeners. And what I'll source or what I'll reference is the Wall Street Journal article that claimed that Hamas, as terrorist groups, were using Bitcoin to circumvent sanctions and raise a lot of money. It came out after the fact in congressional testimony when Tom Emmer, GOP Majority Whip, was interviewing the head of the FinCEN, and the head of the FinCEN said himself, to quote him, that terrorists prefer the traditional financial system over Bitcoin, which is quite interesting because the traditional financial system has all the rules and regulations in play for those things not to happen. But it seems like some illegal actors still seem to prefer the traditional financial system over Bitcoin. I wonder why that's the case, right? Maybe because Bitcoin's an open ledger. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that as well. And also, it seems like there are some companies that are actually listening to Michael Saylor, and they're following in the Michael Saylor MicroStrategy. We have a company coming out of Japan called Metaplanet, and their shares rose 90% after adding $6.56 million in Bitcoin to its balance sheet in partnership with Sora Ventures and other crypto investors. So I think this dam is just going to break loose, as more people realize that the strategy is the way forward. And also this very interesting article that I saw on Bloomberg that my dad sent me. I don't know if we'll have time to cover it today, but the name of the article is Where Bitcoin and Artificial Intelligence Meet. I think that's quite interesting. So hopefully we'll have enough time to cover that. Anyways, it's going to be a great show. And we have a very special guest today. We have a wine connoisseur, a wine maker, a Bitcoin wine maker. His name is Ben. He's Ben number 69. Ben number 69, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live. We're super, super happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on a pro Ben show within Bitcoin.
Yeah, man. I mean, how many like are there? Is that still a thing? Is there's still like an anti-Ben consortium? Anyways, I didn't even welcome.
There's a small anti-Ben movement.
I didn't even welcome Opti. I was just because you're next to me, bro. So
Jeez, he forgets me all the time.
Air Hornet, bro. Opti. Our legendary co-host, always optimistic, is in the house. Optimus Fields, he's here. We got a comment. UTXO, love his name. UTXO, literally. I'm a Weinicus connoisseur. I'm a Weinicus connoisseur too. Weinicus knows how to live it up.
This is true. If you like to decentralize homelessness, TM, hit up Weinicus. But yeah, man, it's good. Feels good to be here. We are streaming live from my kitchen right now. We are in Dallas. It feels good. It's always fun when Nico and I can get in the same room and do the show. Apparently everyone last week was like, I love when you guys are together. The chemistry is good. But let's Ben, before we get on, before we go forward, plug your wine, and then we will talk about, guys, there's an auction live right now, so plug that for us, Ben, and then we'll talk about it in the culture.
Yeah, I've released my Satoshi's Reserve bottle, so it's 210 bottles from my 2021 vintage. I chose this wine from the best barrel in that vintage. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, naturally fermented, no toxic additives, super minimal sulfites. So this wine is both a collectible and awesome wine that won't make you feel crappy after you drink it. So the first 21 bottles, they're all numbered, are for auction right now on scarce.city. So scarce.city. And then the remaining 189 of the 210 bottles will go up for sale on my website, peonylanewine.com at the halving. So whenever the halving happens, the rest will be released and we'll get you some of this awesome wine.
Dude, that's pretty epic, bro. Like a Bitcoiner, dude. Bitcoiners are just fucking awesome. We had a dude also like from your side of the world that like had goats, right? And we literally, he built like a little goat thing. And you sent him lightning, and then like
he's in the chat. He's in the chat right now. Shouts out lightning goats.
Like lightning goats. Like he's the goat. Lightning goats is the goat. So yeah, I mean, Bitcoiners are awesome. So you sell wine. You're like a wine connoisseur. Like you're like, what's the correct name? Because connoisseur is not the right name. You're like a whiner. Like a no, that's not the right name either. You're like a winemaker. Is that it?
As long as you don't call me a wiener, we're good. But I make wine, so I'm a vintner and own a winery.
Oh wait, it's called vintner. You're a vintner.
Vintner is someone who makes wine, but I also own the winery, so I do a little bit of everything there. But yeah, got into that and then found Bitcoin along the way. So it was a natural transition to kind of lean into Bitcoin and in the wine game.
So you're a vintner on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, I'm a vintner on a
Bitcoin
Bitcoin standard.
Where's the fail? Where's the fail over here? Nico's dad jokes failing live.
I actually tried to say it. What is it called? Vintner? A vintner?
I don't think there's a T there. I don't know how to speak words either. There is. Okay, Vinter.
Yeah.
See? Give yourself the fail, bro. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a great show. We have a lot to talk about today. Another awesome Bitcoiner on the show to talk about his incredible project. We love highlighting Bitcoiners from all walks of life just because we hear so many of these interesting stories. So I'm incredibly hyped for today's show. But before we jump into it, I do want to give a massive shout out to our lead sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It's a publicly traded company coming out of Canada that recently expanded to all 50 states. They're on a mission to enable financial independence. Simply Bitcoin ethos perfectly aligns with the Bitcoin Well ethos because they're a self-custody by default platform, meaning you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody. Self-custody is the revolution, guys. I highly recommend using platforms that have self-custody by default. If enough take self-custody, we win this thing, and there's absolutely nothing they can do about it. I also want to give a shout out to the Bitcoin Jackpot Contest, which is currently live on bitcoinwell.com. The way that you enter it is you sign up for the platform, you go to the reward section. Every time you stack sats on the bitcoinwell.com platform, you earn points, and you could throw those points towards the contest, and then that gives you an opportunity to win the jackpot. The jackpot is currently at 4.6, almost 4.7 million Satoshis. So yeah, all you got to do is just stack sats, you earn points, put those points towards the jackpot, and who knows, you might win 4.6 or a portion of 4.6 million Satoshis. Also, we've been giving away a ton of prizes. We give away a passport by Foundation Devices, a book by Seb Bunny. We've given away seed plates. So guys, go check out bitcoinwell.com today. Support self-custody platforms, self-custody by default platforms. And of course, we recommend our lead sponsor, bitcoinwell.com/simplybitcoin. All right, everybody, let's get to the numbers. We have a lot to talk about today. Let's check it out. Here we go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, everybody, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen right now, take you directly to the Stamp Seed website, where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. Guys, don't store your generational wealth properly so you won't have to have that uncomfortable conversation with your grandchildren. They'll blame you, they'll hate you for life because you didn't, make it over the finish line with your Bitcoin. So store your Bitcoin properly, stamp it onto one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, stamp it onto titanium. Check out Stamp Seed today, promo code SIMPLY. All right, at the time of recording, thanks, Opti. At the time of recording, 69,120 sats per dollar, 1,447. Block height, 838,628. Blocks to halving, 1,372. Halving estimate, April 19, 2024. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,363 Bitcoin. Capacity value, $301 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation, 1.73%. The market capitalization of Bitcoin, 1.36 trillion US dollars. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, we are sitting pretty at 9.83%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. Anyways, moving on to, again, the mematics are important. Mematics are important. Opti's our in-house e-girl that we have here at Simply Bitcoin. He works on the vertical video type of stuff. That's what he's trying to dominate. But it doesn't mean the central bankers aren't trying to do it as well. We've played you guys videos from Christine Lagarde. Jerome Powell did one the other day. Now here is the head of the Bank of England. His name is Andrew Bailey. And you guys let me know if you find this video enticing or anyhow. Anyways, just let's start with the look on his face. I feel like he's not looking at me. He's looking into Opti's eyes. You know,
My soul.
He just knows. He's like, Opti, you're next. Anyways, let's play the video.
Hi, I'm Andrew Bailey and I'm the Governor of the Bank of England, and I'm here to launch our new Instagram channel. We're going to use it to tell you some of the things that go on in the Bank of England that you may not know about, what we get up to, and some things about the bank's history. But I've got one good bit of news. You're not going to be seeing a lot of me on this. It's all about the bank, which is more important.
All right. Like, I mean, so audio is terrible. Yeah. Acoustics are terrible. Who the fuck would want to know about the Bank of England? Right? We have a hard time making Bitcoin cool, bro. I mean, a central bank, like, I feel like this is an uphill battle. And I think they perhaps, just a thought, they should have picked maybe a different person saying it.
Yeah, remember when the EU, I think it was, they had the like semi-cute girl, you know, at least they're trying.
Yeah, they definitely had someone like kind of in the age group, right? Anyways, so the inflation, I had to cover this because this was kind of making its rounds on X. Inflation comes in hotter than expected in March. Let's check out some of the article. U.S. consumer prices came in hotter than expected in March, according to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics released Wednesday morning. The CPI rose 0.4% over the previous month and 3.5% over the prior year in March, an acceleration from February's 3.2% annual gain in prices. The data matched February's month-over-month increase. Both measures came in ahead of economists' forecasts of a 0.3% monthly increase and a 3.4% annual increase, according to data from Bloomberg. The hot print complicates the Federal Reserve's next move on interest rates as the central bank works to bring inflation back down to its 2% target. Fed officials have categorized the path down to 2% as bumpy. Investors now anticipate 225 basis points cut this year, down from the 6 cuts expected at the start of the year, according to updated Bloomberg data. On a core basis, which strips out the most volatile costs of food and gas, and prices in March climbed 0.4% over the prior month and 3.8% over last year. March matching February's data. Both measures were higher than economists' expectations of a 0.3 monthly increase and a 3.7% annual gain. Markets sank following the data's release, with the 10-year Treasury yield jumping more than 14 basis points to touch above 4.5% for the first time in 2024. So a lot to kind of unpack here. I feel like this is all kind of like archaic, and like it's just so weird that, you know, like every month society waits for the CPI, and the Fed meetings are even like weirder. Like, and there's like people that like study like Jerome Powell's like body movements and like how he's reacting and how he says things, because like the market's trying to anticipate what the F is going on. I mean, I could tell you Bitcoin's inflation rate right now. I could tell you, you know, that there's a halving coming up in roughly 10 days or so, 9 to 10 days, give or take. I could tell you that for a fact. It's just, you know, it's night and day. Like, it's just night and day. I feel like that's the word I was looking for. Like, this is super archaic, looking at this. And one last point that I got to say is like, no one believes that 3.5%. Like things have gotten significantly more expensive than 3.5%. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of gaslighting, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. We got Elaine in the chat waiting for the liars to lie. Weird, huh? Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird, dude. Like it's like a cult. Like it's like a cult celebration, man. It's like a weird cult. Like they call us a cult, but there's like a literal like pyramid with a fucking eye in the back of the dollar bill, man. All right. So I like our cult better because we get richer and they get poorer. Like they're in a cult of poverty. Like
it's a death cult.
We're in a cult of like wealth and prosperity and optimism. My money, we got Lightning Goats in the chat. I want to see what Lightning Goats is a wise man. All right. Lightning Goat says, problem is in normie world, no one even knows what inflation is. That is an excellent point. Let's talk about that for a second. Okay. So they're talking about inflation, right? And they're like, oh, inflation comes in hotter than expected in March. Okay. Let's say they get this back down to the magical 2% number. They can't even explain as to why it's 2%. And it's just this magical number. Let's say they get it back down to that magical 2% number, right? Like, whoop-de-doo. That doesn't mean that prices are going to go back to where they were before. That just means that the prices of things aren't increasing at a greater pace. That's all it means. And so many people don't quite understand that. And we hear this talking point from politicians all the time, especially like the White House press secretary, like inflation is back down. That doesn't mean that prices are going to go back down. Like people don't understand that. Like they still think like, oh, inflation's down. Everything's going to be okay. Great. You know, Opti and Chrissy are going to get back together. No, they don't get that. They don't understand. They have no effing clue. We have another comment from UTXO. It says, Keynesianism is a cult of debt and negativity. Bitcoin is positive and based on savings. I mean, that deserves some bars, bro. Okay, the number section is running a little bit long today, so I did want to get to today's topic. All right, so we have Dylan LeClaire posting this. Again, shout out to Bitcoin Magazine for streaming it from the Bitcoin Magazine channel. And here you have Senator Cynthia Lummis, and I believe this is the CEO of Marathon Digital Holdings, which is currently one of the world's largest publicly traded mining companies. And they had some really interesting conversation, but someone said it in the chat, right? Like, tell me something I don't know. If you guys have been listening to Simply Bitcoin and tuning in to our show, none of this should come as a surprise to you. We've found multiple smoking guns. I think the most blatant was the Wall Street Journal collusion with Elizabeth Warren, the Elizabeth Warren bill that would be a de facto bill on self-custody and Bitcoin mining in the United States. She took advantage of the crisis that's happening in Gaza between Palestine and Israel to try to sneak in these regulations. You know, the Bitcoin community kind of came back together and they fought back, and it was great. It was wonderful. But yeah, I mean, talk about opportunist. Talk about, using, false information in order to achieve a certain end goal. So yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit in my opinion. Anyways, not coming from Simply Bitcoin. I mean, that's Simply Bitcoin's opinion, obviously, but let's hear what Senator Lummis has to say. I think her name is not Lummis. I think it's pronounced differently.
I think it's Lummis.
Is it Lummis?
Yeah.
I think it's Ben. Well, let's ask Ben. Ben's are smart. Ben, what do you think? Is it Lummis?
I've always heard Lummis, but I can't read, so I have no idea.
It's got double M, so it's a hard M, Lummis.
Okay, because I feel like someone's corrected me on
People
this
said, unless it's Loomis, but I think it's Lummis.
Is it Loomis?
I don't know.
Anyway.
Hashtag we can't speak.
Anyways, here's a clip from Senator Lummis, maybe Loomis. Let's check out what she has.
They're saying Loomis. They're saying Loomis.
It is Loomis? Oh, see? What did Lightning Goat say? Ben's wine keeps getting cheaper in Bitcoin world. Oof. I don't know if that's a jab or not, but I'll take it.
No, it's not.
No, it's true.
Lightning Goats plays 4D chess, bro. All right, here we go.
So the state of play on Capitol Hill is, I think, best explained by what I see as the overarching motivations. And in this administration, there are a number of high-ranking policy positions that are held by people who are threatened by Bitcoin because they know they can't control it. They know it's decentralized. They know its potential.
No shit, Sherlock. I mean, that's how long have we been saying this? Like Opti and I went from like, we really attempted. We tried to play the benefit of the doubt game for like at least 9 months. And then we were so jaded by the end of it that we're like, no, bro, these people are like monetary demons. Like it's confirmed. Anyways, all right.
And these are people that are so wedded to the government being in control of the money, how it's spent, how it's used, that they find it threatening that something exists that they can't control. And so with that policy overarching motivation, we're seeing things like a proposed 30% tax on Bitcoin mining. We're seeing things like that truly odd regulatory overreach by the EIA, Energy Information Administration over at Energy, to send out questionnaires about mining consumption of energy that was just egregious. And so these are the policy headwinds that the Bitcoin world is facing right now. And it's really, I think, entirely based on this administration's fear of things they can't control.
I mean, tune into Simply Bitcoin so you could hear this thing 6 months before, and then you'll see like me and Opti go through literally a denial phase. Like, yeah, I mean, is this like another "I told you so" moment?
Yes. And I think this is an Opti "I told you so" moment, because I came out the gate pretty strong, and he goes like, let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, you're right. I was giving them the benefit of the doubt, but you just went straight for the
Hey,
jugular.
I just don't trust politicians. I don't trust central bankers. I don't trust the institutions. And it really just goes back to like everything I've been saying for the last couple of weeks is if you look, going back to even the CPI numbers, if you believe the official numbers, then you are just lost in the sauce. And, you know, again, touching on the central banker memes there, it's an information war.
Lost in the sauce.
Yeah, and guys, you literally just remember what fiat means. It means by decree. So they have to lie to you. By definition of their money, they have to lie to you so that you believe their narrative. So I'm not surprised by this. Shouts out to Cynthia Lummis. As Elaine said in the chat, you know, wow, an honest politician. Like, it feels good. It's a nice breath of fresh air. But we knew that this was coming, guys. Like, we knew this was the uphill battle. And, you know, just put it in meme terms. You know, fiat maxi is going to fiat maxi. So I'm not surprised at all. It's just good to finally get the quiet part said out loud, not just from, you know, quote unquote conspiracy theorists on YouTubers, because it just goes to show we're right. We're constantly right in the Bitcoin world. And this is our job to try to wake up the normies out there. So, hey, it is what it is.
100%. Ben69, do you have any thoughts on this?
It seems like, is this the beginning of, I mean, it's been then they fight you covertly, presumably for a while, but this is, I mean, it's not brand new. Like you said, you guys have been talking about it, but is this the beginning of serious? Then they fight you overtly. And honestly, like, I mean, the ETFs are probably, if you view those in a negative light, that's the extent of the covert attack in trying to just co-opt the system. But realistically, it seems like things are just coming out of the woodworks covertly now, or on like in front of the world now. And it'll just be interesting to see how people react, because as you guys have been saying, people don't even understand inflation. They lump Bitcoin in with crypto. They see everything as risky, and they don't totally know. But this third, like if we get a real bull run here, this is like probably the third time they've really heard about Bitcoin in their lives, just normal people. And maybe that gives them a chance to actually look into it. Maybe we have a critical mass. Maybe we have an intransigent minority that will not stand for the things that they're trying to push upon us. And I mean, I hope we've built up a strong enough base of Bitcoiners, because it seems like the overt coming after us is going to start happening beyond the covert stuff like KYC and little things that we don't even know about in the background. So it's going to be interesting to watch this run defy all the smart people, quote unquote, that hate Bitcoin.
Amen to that. Also, I do want to give a shout out to the super chat that we got. Damn, $50. Holy cow. Yuval Zaza used that to stack sats. Well, appreciate. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's one of our largest, man.
I think that's the biggest
That's
one.
a record, bro. So appreciate it. We did turn on super chats by popular request. Wine is going to be extremely happy, and we'll definitely use that to feed some goats later on. Anyways, so I do want to get to this article, which is kind of saying what Senator Cynthia Lummis was saying in regards to the current administration, except this time it's coming from a different senator. This senator is called Tim Scott. I believe also that he is currently in according to the betting odds, like he is in the top in terms of being the pick for vice president for the Republicans, which is interesting. Anyways, so it goes on to say, U.S. Senator claims Biden administration uses crypto as scapegoat to mass failures in halting illicit finance. It goes on to say, in a pointed critique during a Senate hearing on April 9th, Senator Tim Scott accused the current U.S. administration of making digital assets the scapegoat in efforts to combat terrorist financing, ignoring more significant, more traditional sources of such funding, particularly those benefiting Iran. Wow. Holy cow.
Wait, reread that again.
It's almost as if like how long ago did we say that? Jesus. Oh man. Bro, do you think they watch Simply Bitcoin?
Probably not, but anyway, a man can hope.
Oh man. Okay. Anyways, yeah, if you want to hear tomorrow's Bitcoin news today, this is Simply Bitcoin. Anyways, addressing Deputy Treasury Secretary Adwala Adeyemo, Scott voiced concerns over the Treasury's exclusive request for expanded authority over cryptocurrencies in the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. He argued that this narrow focus sidelines significant sources of terrorist funding, including Iran's $35 billion in oil exports, and an additional $16 billion in U.S. hostage relief, electricity waivers, which, according to Scott, facilitate the Iranian government's misuse of funds. According to Scott, the focus on crypto misses the, quote, elephant in the room, as the scope of the conversation regarding illicit finance is, quote, far larger than digital assets. In response to Treasury Secretary Adeyemo defended the focus on digital assets, stating the Treasury's current lack of authority, making it challenging to restrict crypto assets, crypto transactions effectively compared to traditional financial transfers. Adeyemo emphasized the distinct challenges posed by crypto, including Russia's stablecoin use to avoid sanctions and North Korea's reliance on mixtures to obscure financial transactions. Adeyemo outlined the Treasury's request for additional powers over crypto, a proposal made in November that aims to introduce secondary sanctions against foreign crypto providers, tightening existing regulations, and addressing risks posed by international crypto platforms. Adeyemo also addressed Scott's concerns about the abuse of humanitarian funding and said the U.S. intends to remain committed to humanitarian relief despite Iran's known abuse of funding. In his prepared remarks, Adeyemo explained how the Treasury wants additional authority over crypto. The Treasury's former request, dating back to November, focuses on 3 points: to introduce a secondary sanctions tool aimed at foreign crypto providers, tighten existing authority over crypto, in targeting jurisdictional risk from crypto platforms based internationally. Okay. So a lot to unpack there, and we're going to cover this because I feel emboldened just because of how we literally nailed that Tim Scott and Senator Cynthia Lummis thing. By the way, there's 913 of you guys watching us on YouTube and X, and let me check Rumble. Give me 1 second. There's 65 of you watching us on Rumble. So if you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button on the platform. Really helps with the algos. Okay. I'm emboldened because we got it right. We got it right. All right. U.S. sanction policy is not compatible with how Bitcoin works. Full stop. Period. What Cynthia Lummis said about how there's current members in the administration that are in positions of power and they feel threatened by the fact that, holy cow, they can't really control this thing. Look, this is a pivotal. This is a monumental shift from how things used to function. This is the sovereign individual thesis playing out in real time. Governments are not going to have the ability to control information and money the way they used to. Things have changed. The internet started the fire. Bitcoin poured a barrel of gasoline on that fire. So, they can try to impose the traditional regulations and the traditional system on top of Bitcoin. I just don't think it's not that I just don't think it's going to work. It's not going to work in terms of stopping people's ability to use it. What can happen is that they can make the lives of people extremely miserable, not stopping criminals, I might add, but stopping law-abiding citizens. They can make their lives miserable. They can actually hurt their ability to benefit from the Bitcoin effect. A great example of that is the Bitcoin ETF. They literally approved that with their teeth grinding. They're like, we don't want this. This is horrible. This is horrific. And the reason that they didn't approve it, 5 years before is because of the so-called risk. Like, think about how much money people could have made if that ETF was approved. And then not to mention the way that they completely dropped the ball on the ETF approval. And it was the SEC themselves that literally manipulated the market because they said the ETF was approved and the price pumped. Then they said it wasn't approved and the price crashed. And then the next day we're like, oh yeah, it actually was approved. So it's like the agency themselves that is responsible for that, literally did the thing that they're responsible for stopping. So this is part of the transition into the information age. This is part of the separation of money and state. And what I said yesterday, I'll say today. Things don't change when the government realizes that they can't stop this. Things change when a large enough percentage of the population realizes that the government has no power to stop this. That's when things start to really change, because we've lived in a world where the government's return on violence has been extremely high. And as we transition into the information age, their return on coercion, their return on violence starts to be diminished. And that's the world that we're literally moving towards. And there's nothing they could do to stop it. So here's the thing, though. They can get on the train themselves and benefit from it. However, they are going to have to give up some power and control in the process, or they can just scare people away from their jurisdictions. That's what's going to happen. Like, there is no other option other than trying to go down the China totalitarian route. But as we know from China, based on the data and the information that's coming out of there, even with the CCP mining ban, it's estimated that between 10 to 15% of the hash rate is still located in China. There's still a tremendous amount of volume that's coming out of China. So think about it this way. In the most totalitarian country, one of the most totalitarian countries in the world, it's a single party state, people are risking breaking the law in order to use Bitcoin and benefit from Bitcoin. So you're trying to tell me in the US, look, the marijuana industry is a great example. Like the marijuana ban, the prohibition in the 1920s, right? With alcohol. Like, none of those things worked. None of them worked. None of it worked ever, right? So again, like, are you gonna make it illegal for people? Because this is what Elizabeth Warren has proposed. Are you gonna make it illegal for people to write down 12 words and somehow like they get put in a box for doing so? Are you gonna make it illegal because people don't want to use your current? Or do you want to force people to use money that steals from them? Because that's the proposition. Like, that's what certain members of the government have, in their minds. I mean, look at the famous Barack Obama video where he's like, look, like, are you trying? Not everyone can have a Swiss bank account in their pocket. That's precisely what Bitcoin is. It's like, not only you do have a Swiss bank account in your pocket, you are the owner of that you are the owner of the bank of that Swiss bank, right? It's like that. And I think the world would be a much better place for it. So don't let them gaslight you. Don't let them tell you that the world is somehow going to burn down in flames unless they have a back door and unless they have complete totalitarian censorship control over everything. I think they're wrong. I think the world before 1913, before the introduction of the Federal Reserve in the United States, before the introduction of the federal income tax in 1913 as well, I think was a much more peaceful place. I'm going to use Ron Paul's quote. It's not a coincidence that the century of central banking was also the bloodiest century in human history. I think it's time to try something new. If you're a millennial, if you're a Zoomer, you're priced out of the housing market. Like, things suck ass. And I mean, they can't even take responsibility for the inflation numbers. They gaslight you on that. I think it's time to try something new. And unfortunately, for a lot of, the managerial class, for a lot of the administrative class, for a lot of the elite political class that benefit from that money printer, that's a really tough pill to swallow. But I mean, dude, it's what I said. It's either Bitcoin or slavery for us. And the younger you are, the more serious you take this, because you don't have another option. It's dire for you, And one of the other things that I would say is we hear this common theme all the time, which is this idea of the American dream is dead. You can't afford it. People can't buy houses. People can't buy this. The American dream is living, it's alive, it's never been better, and you can adopt the American dream anywhere around the world if you adopt a Bitcoin standard. So if you adopt Bitcoin, if you are against Bitcoin, you're against people's prosperity. You're against people's ability to save for a better future. You're against people's optimism. That's what you're against. You literally want people to be poor. So whether that's the Biden administration, whether that's Elizabeth Warren, if you're against Bitcoin, you want poverty, you want nihilism, you want all the characteristics that come with fiat today. That's what you want for your people. And that's effed up. And Bitcoiners have to keep pressing, and we have to keep highlighting that fact, and we have to keep making it, we have to control the conversation in that perspective. We have to make it that simple. If you're against Bitcoin, you're against all these things. If you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom, period, full stop. There is no debating that. Anyways, Opti, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something we've been saying for a long time on the show, and it goes back to the roundabout. What's the roundabout meme? We're never going to take the power out of the government's hand. We have to build a roundabout system that they can't control. And that's what Bitcoin is. And we're seeing right now, especially in the political bureaucratic class, that they do not understand what Bitcoin is. So I think some people understand that they are losing the game, and so they're sitting there freaking out. They're trying to control the on and off ramps. They're trying to figure out ways to stop Bitcoin, whether it's KYC AML, whether it's what was the KYC self-hosted wallets. They're doing whatever they can to stop this, but it's becoming more and more clear, at least to the average, everyday viewer out there, someone that just barely pays attention to Bitcoin, that they cannot stop Bitcoin. And this is the whole point here. And the more they try to stop Bitcoin, the more that they expose themselves of having little to no power over Bitcoin. And then you just compare that, you put a mirror up to that, to the system that they want to basically corral you in, and they're proposing just total control. Hence why we're seeing memetics come out from the central bank, is because they understand that they got to psyop you into your own debt slavery for the rest of humanity. And then there's Bitcoin on the other side, where they can't control it. They're freaking out about it. And now we finally have some politicians that are actually saying the quiet parts out loud, that they can't control this. And all of their attacks are just an attempt to gaslight the population and gaslight the normie out there into not using Bitcoin because they're afraid. Well, this is the beauty of Bitcoin. Bitcoin defunds the huge government. Bitcoin defunds this perpetual war machine, because they never turn off the war machine since World War I. And now there's actually a way to stop it, and it's by you guys opting out, saving in Bitcoin. And all they can really do is complain and gaslight you into being afraid of your literal freedom, literally being afraid of walking through the escape hatch. And here we are. We're on the other side, just waving at everyone and man, it's so much better over here. Just saving some Bitcoin. It's literally that easy. And again, Ben said it earlier, for a while there, we were all wondering whether we were in the then they fight you stage, and now it's becoming very clear that we're entering those early first rounds of then they fight you stage, and they're going to throw whatever they can at Bitcoin. They're going to throw whatever they can at Bitcoiners. They might even try to lock some of us Bitcoiners in a cage. This is what they do. They have the monopoly on violence, and now at least we have, I kind of like them acknowledging the fact that they're afraid of Bitcoin. This is why I say all the time, guys, like Brad Sherman and Elizabeth Warren are my favorite politicians, because at least they're being honest about their fear here. They're obviously not being honest in any other respect, but they're being honest about the fact that we know the game here, guys. The name of the game is power, and what is the ultimate tool of power? It is money. If he controls the money, he controls the game. Well, they can't control our money, hence why they're freaking out and trying to gaslight us.
And again, and the reason that I'm so vocal on it today, and like we've just gone ham, is because Cynthia Lummis and Tim Scott, representatives from Congress, have literally confirmed what we have been hypothesizing for basically the last 9 months or so. We've given them the benefit of the doubt, and they even them, right? And when you say stuff in politics, you kind of have to censor yourself a little bit, because you don't want to piss off the other side of the aisle. And they have even come to these conclusions where it's like, look, like this is about, it's exactly what Opti said. This is about control. By the way, I don't know what's going on with the super chats today, but holy cow, we absolutely love you guys. Carl, there's absolutely no way I'm going to pronounce your last name, but
best producer in the game. Shouts out to Tatum Turnup, Between Two Asics.
Between Two Asics. And he says, we got a super chat from Carl, $5. Bitcoin sounds like Ben. Coincidence?
No, Ben Corn.
Oh, Ben
Corn.
Corn. Ben Corn.
Coincidence?
Oh, very nice. Very nice. We got a $69 super chat from Dan on Nostr. Appreciate you. Thank you, Kevin Johnson. Really appreciate it, bro. Damn, bro. I think that's our record for super chats. Did we miss any? I don't think so.
I think we got it.
Wow. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it today. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Ben. Sorry, Ben. We kind of just went on our soapboxes. This is a little bit of vindication for Simply Bitcoin, because these are things that we've been theorizing for the last 9 months or so, just based on the fact that we try to stay on top of the news on a daily basis and plugged into the news cycle. And then Opti and I just come to these conclusions. Opti just took a first principles approach, and he was just like, you know what, bro, like they're straight up like just trying to like ban Bitcoin because they can't control it. And then I went through this process of like give them the benefit of the doubt, and then I caught like the Wall Street Journal article just did it for me. I was like, wow. So they literally are using the legacy corporate media to try to convince the American populace of things that are not true. And the legacy corporate media won't even pull that information down because it's clearly they're trying to achieve a political end goal. Like, yeah, like something's going on here. Anyways, Ben, what are your thoughts on this, brother?
Well, the only argument at this point or previously for the government not coming after Bitcoin was if you're arguing serious ineptitude. And while that does exist within government, and there's a ton of things that are falling apart, it does also attract a lot of people that are extremely power hungry and a lot of people that are extremely smart and successful. So they will figure out ways to attack it and will clutch at their waning power. But I see this as a two-sided issue where you have the people that are adopting Bitcoin, adopting other freedom tech that will likely come to Bitcoin eventually, and then the powers that be looking to maintain their power, trying to grab on. And there's those two sides, but the majority of people are there, right there in the middle. And yeah, they've just been going along with the current system, but they don't totally understand it. Like we said, they don't even understand inflation. They don't really understand what they're going along with. So they're nominally maybe on the state side because that's what they're used to, but they ultimately don't have strong beliefs, don't have strong feelings. They care about their family, their financial future, putting food on the table. And both sides are grabbing for those people in the middle to build up a consensus and gain power, control, just gain a foothold. And the Bitcoiners, the freedom tech is the more anti-fragile side. Yeah, I mean, we can get kicked out, we can get crushed on, but ultimately you can't kill us. And we're not going away. We might get put down a little bit, but we're not going away. Whereas the powers that be on the other side looking to grab people, bring more people into the system, all they have to give is welfare, social security, stuff that's like waning, and they're losing power in that regard. So it's these desperate throes of an empire that is going up against an immovable object. So it's pretty exciting to be on the side that like ultimately will win in the end in the long term. I think the side that you can't kill, but there could be a lot of pain in the short term, and seeing stuff like this really just makes me want to take extra control of all my Bitcoin, be a little bit better about my OPSEC, which is, you know, there's only so good I can be as a Bitcoin Ben, but as much as I can do, really just like, I think, yeah, there will be jealousy of any Bitcoin gains that people have because people feel like they missed out on it. And then there's this whole media campaign of trying to convince people that the Bitcoiners, the crypto people that they're lumping in with us are bad. So I do expect a decent amount of vitriol, but also a lot of people coming to our side, maybe a little bit quieter. Maybe they're like me and go crazy by finding Bitcoin and realize that it's the future, and have their whole world flipped upside down. But it's really going to be, I think it's going to be a culture war here. I mean, it already is. It's red versus blue, but man, it's realizing that those two are against orange, and it's got to get crazy here in a little bit, man. This election season is going to be wild as well, even without Bitcoin. But it's exciting to be on to the next stage, but it also comes with a lot more risk, I would say, for individual Bitcoiners, not Bitcoin itself.
100%. I think you hit something that was spot on, right? Which is this idea that, you know, it's not red versus blue, it's really green versus orange, right? And that's really, you know, that's really kind of like the lesson here, right? So, you know, it doesn't matter where that politician is on the Democratic side or the Republican side. Are they for Bitcoin or are they against Bitcoin? If you're for Bitcoin, you're pro freedom. If you're against Bitcoin, you're anti-freedom.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Boom. Damn, bro. I was like a lot spicier years ago. I feel like I've toned it down a little bit. Have to get back on that again. But good day for vindication, you know, and shout out again to David Zell, Bitcoin Policy Institute, and of course Bitcoin Magazine for live streaming the whole event. Those types of events are extremely important. Those types of dialogues. So shout out to them for kind of hosting it and putting it together. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about today. Let's hit the news. Let's do it. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You can scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the Foundation Devices website where you guys get yourself a Passport. Remember, guys, not your keys, not your cheese. Get yourself a cold storage device. And of course, we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices, completely open source. Anyways, so, I mean, once again, this is like, I feel like I want to call this the vindication episode. We've been saying for the last couple of weeks that Michael Saylor's strategy has been vindicated. He is up on his investment. He's outperforming everything, including the tech stocks, including commodities, including the S&P 500, including Bitcoin, I might add too, because MicroStrategy is a bit of like a leverage play. So, and the case that we've been making is like, look, like it's just inevitable before other companies follow in his footsteps. Now, the case that we've been making is for the tech stocks, because that's when all hell breaks loose, in a good way, by the way. That's when you really see the floodgates open. And what do I mean by that? I mean by a company like Facebook, a company like Google, a company like Microsoft starts adding Bitcoin and putting it on its balance sheet. And they don't have to do a lot. Like if they put 1 to 2 to 3% of their so-called cash reserves that are literally like a melting ice cube, and they put that into Bitcoin, just by having 1 to 2 to 3% of that into Bitcoin, it will overcompensate. It will compensate for the loss of purchasing power that they're incurring every single year due to inflation. Right. I think it will do more. And of course, it's going to benefit their stock, too, as well as number go up does its thing. Right. So it's such a no brainer, in my opinion. But OK, you got fine. You can't. Maybe I was aiming to the stars. Maybe it was aiming to the moon. But it seems like a Japanese firm called Metaplanet. Honestly, sounds like an altcoin. Apparently, they decided to mimic the MicroStrategy strategy. Here is a headline by CoinDesk. It's currently hosted on Yahoo Finance. It says, Metaplanet shares soar as Japanese firm mimics MicroStrategy on Bitcoin buying. Goes on to say, Metaplanet stock rose 90% after adding 6.56 million in Bitcoin to its balance sheet in partnership with Sora Ventures and other crypto investors. The move aims to reduce yen exposure and offer Japanese investors crypto access with a preferential tax structure. Metaplanet 3350, a Web3, see? Never miss.
Knew it was coming.
It's always the name, bro. The name. Anyways. A Web3 infrastructure provider saw its Tokyo-listed stock rise almost 90% in 2 days after saying it was adding $6.56 million in Bitcoin to its balance sheet in partnership with Sora Ventures, Morgan Creek Capital's Mark Yusko, and others. The company, which started as a budget hotel operator under the name Red Planet before becoming a Web3 software developer, said it is looking to minimize its exposure to the Japanese yen. I mean,
wait, are we at the part of the cycle where people just pivot into Bitcoin and blockchain, even though they're not even close to being associated with it?
I'm kind of let down a little bit here because I'm like, yeah, Google and Facebook and Microsoft, they're just going to follow MicroStrategy's like footsteps. No, but it's like literally a
shitcoin company,
a shitcoin hotel chain, a shitcoin hotel chain, bro.
Verify your hotel safety on the blockchain with Metaplanet.
All right. The yen, the company wrote in an update to shareholders, has been damaged by Japan's generation-long low interest rate environment that has eroded its position as a key global currency. In March, the central bank increased short-term interest rates from 0 to 0.1% from minus 0.1%, the first increase in the rate for 17 years. Quote, the company's decision to incorporate Bitcoin into its treasury asset is driven by a multifaceted understanding of its potential as a hedge against inflation, a tool for macroeconomic resilience, and a basis for long-term capital appreciation. I mean,
my first thought on this is just like, everyone's going to think that the Michael Saylor model, or some people are going to think that the Michael Saylor model has like been done and they missed out, and they're just going to start buying crypto on their balance sheet. Like, let's just push the risk curve a little bit more. I mean, this is obvious. This is the crypto company, and the big giants will still buy Bitcoin because that's insanely risky to them in their eyes. Like, that's stepping out so far. But it just seems like I wouldn't doubt that there would be a lot of smaller companies that are looking to make names by being like the first company to hold Solana on their balance sheet. Which I mean,
dude,
see all this junk.
Look at that hockey stick up. Like, it looks very similar to, and it's not even that much. Like 6.5, like it's not that much Bitcoin. Like $6 million. Like, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things.
That is a real increase, though. 90%.
Lightning goats
in 2 days.
The lightning goats.
Yeah.
The Bitcoin play is how you save a failing company.
Shot fired.
Shall we talk about? This is a great, I think, transition.
Oh man,
shall we talk about it?
I don't know enough to talk about it, but I think I know where you're going.
Let's be neutral about it. Okay, so attempt to be neutral. Okay, so oh god. Anyways,
Just report the facts. I'll pull up Primal.
okay. Anyways, yeah. I mean, dude, like hockey stick up. Like literally, kind of similar to MicroStrategy in that sense, where the MicroStrategy stock was going sideways for. Whoa, we're wrong one. The MicroStrategy stock was going sideways for like literally decades. And literally since the 1990s, like the .com, boom and bust. And all of a sudden, share your screen. And then all of a sudden, they adopted MicroStrategy, and then the MicroStrategy did a stock up. However, there has been definitely some, There's definitely been some, how do I say this? There's been some turmoil on Nostr. See, Opti has it pulled up. Let me share the screen. So yeah, this is just like same thing, right? Like literally like a hockey stick. Like they adopted MicroStrategy. Their stock was going sideways. Adopted Bitcoin. And their stock literally went up, like over 1,000% in a matter of years. Yeah. And then, but there's been some interesting develops. Share the tab. There's been some interesting developments and yeah. So what I'm talking about essentially is, of course, Matt Odell is a very, very public figure in the Bitcoin space. And essentially what's happening is, he transitioned to Nostr completely. He left X. He's for freedom tools. I completely respect that. I love Nostr as a protocol. You can't censor anyone. Love it. But there's been a bit of a how do I phrase this? A bit of a controversy. That's the correct word. And essentially, the controversy is that Michael Saylor has essentially stopped some of these ETFs from donating to open source developers.
All right, so just read from the bottom up, and then we'll chime in a little bit.
So Odell says one of the big ETFs was going to donate to open source devs. Saylor told them Saylor told them if they did it, he would crush them. So they pulled out of the commitment. This is not controversial. If people stop simping and ask Saylor his opinion, he would encourage you to not support open source devs. He has actually killed deals to support devs. He is proud of it. He is wrong, and everyone is afraid to say shit. Then he goes on to say, I don't want to be a Bitcoin influencer. I don't want to be on Saylor's yacht. You have no power over me. My focus is my family. We will live free. And
then the cherry on top is this one right here.
And here is, of course, is that Jack?
Yes.
Why is he going by the name Dan?
I don't know why it's going by Dan.
It is his account, though.
That's his account, though.
Okay. So Jack, that is going by the name Dan, a bit of a troll, is saying that
read this. So there's a response here.
Jack says
someone basically was saying like Odell's fighting, and then Odell responds with,
yeah, Odell responds with, nope, they both committed to supporting devs. They are legit. The other ETF did not support devs. One specifically was going to and pulled out after talking to Saylor. I do not feel comfortable mentioning which one, but it was incredibly disappointing. I tried to handle it privately, but it has been over 3 months, so felt like it should be made public. And then Jack Dorsey's just saying it's ARK.
It's ARK.
So, yeah, I mean...
Spicy.
Yeah. Well, do you have any thoughts on this?
I mean, look, I don't know enough to really opine on what is actually going on. I'm just kind of seeing the surface level stuff that everyone else is talking about. And, it is pretty crazy. I'm personally not much of a Saylor simp. I respect him as someone that is a billionaire and went all in on Bitcoin. But hearing this, just taking it on a surface level kind of rumor mill, even though like shouts out to Odell.
I'm going to put on my like conspiracy theory hat. Like, why would Saylor be against these ETFs
Well, yeah, see, that's what I don't know. I don't know the background to this, but I think from what I saw on Twitter, that's why people are saying that's why he's so big on calling Bitcoin property and not necessarily money, because I think he literally said on a podcast, and again, you got to go verify this, but he basically said on a podcast that like he can't call it money or else his head's on the chopping block, and so maybe these are kind of the things going forward. I know he's kind of an ossification maxi. So I don't know, man. It is definitely disheartening. I do respect Odell, so I'm pretty sure he's not just talking out of his ass and spitting hot air here.
No. Odell's not talking out of his ass.
Exactly. So I don't know, man. I think this is I know this might be like the current thing right now that everyone wants to talk about. So I'm gonna kind of really reserve my opinion until I figure it out.
I'm just like, what is the purpose of that? Like, why is and it's all really like interesting questions. I'm sure like we'll find out over the next couple months or so. But yeah, I mean, interesting. And then okay, I have a question for you guys though. Do you think it's cool that a publicly traded ETF is supporting open source development? Wouldn't that potentially influence the development that your developers?
I think that's what everyone's kind of saying. So I mean, I don't know. Definitely,
the money's gonna come from somewhere.
He who pays the bills definitely has some influence.
Like if the open source development is being funded by publicly traded companies, like doesn't that create like a certain type of situation? Armin the Parman, the devs get used to the income, then they become subservient to the employer. Yeah, I mean,
so maybe it's kind of a good thing.
Funding turns the devs into employees. I mean, look, my hesitation is like, what
we don't have enough information.
No, it's just common first principles, bro. You used it for Elizabeth Warren and co, right? Okay, like if the funding is coming from public companies in these ETFs, you can make the argument that if a lot of the funding is coming from these ETFs, then they're going to have an influence on the development of Bitcoin.
Wait, sorry, I was reading the chat. What'd you say?
If a bulk of the ETF funding is coming from publicly traded ETFs, you could make the argument, you can make the case that will have an impact on the development of Bitcoin or what is being developed on Bitcoin. And is that a positive thing or is that a negative thing? I would like literally put that in the negative camp.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm leaning more negative, guys, especially when you know what that one caveat in the BlackRock ETF where they can fork to whatever Bitcoin they want.
No. And that's a great, let's personify it, right? Do you really want Larry Fink funding open source devs?
That doesn't even make sense, dude.
That doesn't sound good. Like, could you imagine? It's like, yes, the development has to be ESG friendly. Like, no, bro. Like, I'm a little bit hesitant. I understand what Odell's saying. I get it. You know what?
The money is going through the filter of OpenSats, so it's not like it's coming directly from these ETFs, but it's going to
okay, I get it. So it's going through Odell's OpenSats.
Yeah, which is why he's so close to this. And he's also passionate about the whole thing. But yeah, if you're worried about maybe Odell or just like the consortium of OpenSats having too much power, the answer is just, more different sources of funding and also more different ways of distributing. Because, I mean, I think a lot of us agree that open source building is important for this common technology that we have in Bitcoin. And if you want to see something built, you may have to fund it. And there's going to be a ton of people funding Bitcoin development for, a ton of nefarious reasons, but also a ton of good reasons. And I'm happy to see more money come in, hopefully moved in good ways. I hate to say I trust, but I do appreciate Odell's perspective on this and the way they set up OpenSats to distribute the money. But the more money that comes in, the more insulated Bitcoin is from other pools of money throwing a bunch in to develop on top of it. So the more money that's in there, the more money it takes to influence. And I mean, it's all coming. It's all of this is going to come. There will be more development on Bitcoin. There will be a ton of money thrown into it. And I'm happy to see it being put through what I think is a good filter in OpenSats, but it'll continue coming in a bunch of different ways.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right, everybody, before we move on to the next segment to talk to Ben about his project, I do want to give a very special shout out to one of our sponsors. And of course, I'm talking about the Orange Pill app. The Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. You have to stack friends who stack sats. Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most powerful, influential people in the next 5 to 10 years. So it'll probably be a good idea to stack those Bitcoiner friends. The Orange Pill app is one of the best places to connect with fellow Bitcoiners. They have this very clever filtration system so that you won't find any altcoiners or any scammers on the platform, on the app. I'm personally on there. The Simply Bitcoin group chat is currently in the video description or the podcast description. Opti and I tend to be very lively there, and you can connect with us very, very quickly. And it's also a great resource for when you are in a new city and potentially you don't know anybody. If you pull up the Orange Pill app, it will tell you the Bitcoiners around you. So it gives you the ability to connect with them. If you want to create a Bitcoin only event, it's the #1 resource to do so. And it's a great way to advertise that event as well. So I highly recommend checking out the Orange Pill app. If you want to reach out to me and Opti directly, just download the app, send us a message. You could find us on there. I'm at Nico. And you could send us a message, and I tend to take the time every so often to reply to each and every single one of you. So guys, what are you waiting for? Download the Orange Pill app today. All right, everybody, let's get to the culture.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsor, KBX. They are the most trusted place to buy, sell. They're the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. To check out their racks, scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description. That will take you directly to their Telegram marketplace, where you can connect with a member of their sales team. They make purchasing their products easy and transparent. You could also sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. You could access their vast network of international and domestic customers when you sell your mining equipment with Kaboom Racks. This is where I personally buy my Bitcoin mining ASICs. What are you waiting for? Visit Kaboom Racks today. All right, everybody. I do want to talk to Ben, and Ben is how do you say it? A vinter, I believe. I see. I remember, bro. I remember.
Is that wrong? A vintner?
Yeah, you both got it wrong.
What is it?
Vintner.
Vintner.
Oh, vintner. It's very fancy. Very fancy. Okay, so we're gonna talk to a Bitcoin vintner. And dude, so I'm gonna hijack this a little bit, Opti. How did you get into winemaking in the first place?
I grew up on a farm where my dad grew all his own food and got convinced to. He planted a few acres of grapes, farmed it for a few years, and once they started producing, he figured he might as well produce his own wine. And so he'd been doing that for 15 years, more as a hobby than a business. And when I was like 25, I was having a quarter-life crisis, knowing I wanted to start a business but couldn't figure out what, and decided to hop into winemaking because I figured if my dad could figure it out, I could. And 5 years in, now I'm just released my third vintage, and it's been a hell of a ride. So making natural wine like he did, which is wine with a wild fermentation, which is the wild yeast in your vineyard actually ferments as opposed to adding a cultured yeast. And what that does is it proves the quality of your farming methods. So you're not spraying with a ton of herbicides or pesticides that would disrupt the microbiome. And then it also brings a bit of localized flavor. So that yeast that ferments the wine creates a ton of flavor within the wine. And if you're doing a wild yeast, then literally those characteristics cannot be found anywhere else in the world. It also has no toxic additives and super minimal sulfites. So I do meet a lot of people who don't drink wine because it makes them feel crappy the next day, or while they're drinking it, they get headaches. And with Peony Lane and other natural wines, it's pretty wild how good you feel afterwards. You don't get hungover from drinking it. It's pretty wild. Like my birthday was last week, and I drank a ton of my wine, and I went to bed and kind of had like a crazy realization that it wasn't like, the realization was, oh my God, I didn't even think about being hungover tomorrow. That's not even in my mindset that I would think about being hungover from drinking tomorrow. I just feel good the next day after drinking my wine, and it's amazing to be able to like have a good night out with friends, celebrate a special occasion, and not pay for it the next day. And that's what you can get with natural wine and peony lane specifically.
Interesting. What is it about natural wine that doesn't give you a hangover? And also, I just gotta mention, like, Bitcoin.
Wait, huge fan of anything that doesn't give you a hangover. I'll tell you right now.
So yeah, dropping truth bombs update. But dude, I love Bitcoin, bro. Bitcoiners are just so, bro, like, it's so crazy what happens when you adopt a Bitcoin standard. You just start doing really wholesome, cool shit.
Wait. Is buying a bottle of Peony Lane a better store of value than saving in Bitcoin?
I think look, the Satoshi's reserve, we'll see. I mean, that could pay. No, that probably won't outpace Bitcoin, but it'll definitely outpace the dollar. What I think about is, like, we know wine gets better with age, right? And it's not going to get better at 100% compound annual growth rate like Bitcoin, but wine gets better with age. And I think when you look at the Bitcoin standard going into the future, how much better we get at producing things, where the value of money is with a fixed monetary standard, I'm super interested to see if, I mean, it's certain wines, it's high quality wines, different wines age differently. Depends on how much is produced, but I think you could make an argument that wine will maintain its value on a Bitcoin standard during the Bitcoin monetization phase by Bitcoin.
Can we talk about that for a sec? So what is it about natural wines that doesn't give you hangover? What is it about, like, the non-natural wines that give you hangover? Like, what's the difference? And why is it that Bitcoiners always do, like, the wholesome, healthy shit? Like,
because you need to usher these stats in for the long term.
There has to be, like, some type of connection between Bitcoiner, like, adopting a sound money standard and just, like, adopting a better form of living. Like, there's definitely a connection there, which is just absolutely crazy. So what are your thoughts, man?
Well, growing up on the farm and seeing how hard my dad worked and literally eating the benefits of that labor, I was pretty predisposed to thinking long term, which is why I got into Bitcoin. So I would just say that people that do stuff like this are already predisposed. They're the low hanging fruit to get into Bitcoin whenever they eventually find it. With natural wine, one thing to understand about wine, especially in the United States, is there's no ingredients list required on a bottle of wine. And what you think is, oh, it's just the grapes, right? Grapes make wine. That's all it is. It's not. There's so many other things added to wine. And the poster child of all those things is sulfites. Sulfites are used as a preservative. They're used to protect the wine from both oxygen and anything that lives in your wine, which is important. There's a microbiome that literally creates your wine. It's the yeast, it's the bacteria, it creates all the flavors. Sulfites kill that. And what you can do is kill that before fermentation and then add your yeast, or kill it after fermentation and add a ton to protect it from oxygen. That is just insanely overdone in American wine. A lot of people do have reactions to that specifically, but it's also the only thing people know about, where, like I said, there's tons of ingredients. So it literally could be any one of those things that people are having a bad reaction to. But when you nail down what wine is, and it's literally just, when it can just be the grapes, you feel good. It turns out, like, you're gonna, if you stay up late drinking a ton of wine, your sleep's gonna be bad. I'm not saying like you're just gonna feel like $1 million the next day, but it's a pretty wild difference when you drink conventional wine versus natural wine. The headache just kind of disappears. My first experience with that was actually after I started making wine. I knew natural wine was cool. You get cooler flavors, but I was 25. Like, I didn't get the hangovers that I was used to that like I get now. So, I didn't really realize it, but I bought a $100 bottle of wine that at that time was like insanely nice for me. Shouldn't have bought the bottle. Brought it over to a friend's house for Christmas and started drinking it. It was a Cabernet Sauvignon from California. And I got a headache like halfway through that first glass. And I kind of knew what was happening, but all I did was I dumped out that glass of wine and poured myself another glass of wine, but from my bottle, and that headache went away. And I kept drinking the whole night. So it's really just it's the additives within the wine that make you feel like crap. They're not necessary, but they lead to a more consistent product, a more manipulatable product, and a higher time preference product, one that you can get out to a mass market a lot easier. You can manipulate the flavor to fit exactly what the person wants. Whereas what I'm making is more of what nature intended. I'm trying to keep my hands off the wine. I'm trying to just let it do its thing, and because I think it will create, and it has created, an amazing product. But if you're really going for the super high dollars, super fast time to liquidity, and no matter what, wine is slow, you don't want to take those risks where smaller producers or low time preference producers, specifically like European producers, a lot of times will produce this high quality natural wine that is sorely missing in America.
Love it. Love it. Okay, let's get to the topic at hand. Why we brought Ben back on. Let's talk about the Satoshi reserved option on Scarcity. So maybe, I guess, since you've been talking about wines, what's the process on this wine? What makes this one special? And then we can go into the auction and all the deadlines and all that good stuff.
Of course. So I started my winery in 2019 and didn't sell any wine until summer 2021, which is after I already paid for the grapes that were making this wine. But in 2020, I fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole when I was building my house. And so the next wine I got to make was this 2021 vintage as a Bitcoiner. This is the first wine I ever made like as a Bitcoiner. And so while I was making it, I was always thinking like, it'd be so cool to brand this in a Bitcoin way, sell it for Bitcoiners. If I could sell it for Bitcoin, that'd be cool. As I kept diving down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, it just like became more and more obvious that would be an amazing thing for me to do. And what I did was, if I'm going to sell it for Bitcoin, if I'm going to make it this special Bitcoin bottle, I have to make it my apex wine, because Bitcoin's the apex predator for money. So what I did is I chose my best barrel. And what another thing people don't understand about wine is every barrel tastes slightly different. Everything's going to be a little bit different in different ways. And so I just went through, as I normally do, I tasted all the wine, and then I pulled out my best barrel of all my wine, bottled it, 210 bottles, and now it's my Bitcoin wine. So selling wine for Bitcoin has been both, I prefer it. It's really easy in person, but online it's been difficult for me because of alcohol regulations and dealing with my third-party provider of liquor licensing. And so this is legitimately the first time, this auction is the first time I've ever been able to say that this wine is being sold for Bitcoin only, which is pretty awesome for me, because that's a long-term goal. I mean, I would love to say no to people that want to pay for my labor in fiat, but realistically, I need the money to pay my bills. All my bills are in fiat. And so this is kind of like the fulfillment of a 3-year process in making the wine and going down the rabbit hole and in getting closer to being Bitcoin only. So the 3 lots are bottle number 1, which you're looking at, which has, I'm blown away by this bid. That's super awesome.
Crazy.
Bottle 21, which also has a ridiculously high bid. And then the bottles 2 through 20. And so those bottles 2 through 20 are, if you bid the highest, you get first choice. So you could get bottle number 2, or you could get bottle number 7 if that's the number you prefer. And then these bottles are the only way, if you bid on these auctions, this is the only way to get wine Satoshi's Reserve in time for the halving. So if you're looking to celebrate the halving with Satoshi's Reserve, you got to pay me in Bitcoin. You got to win one of these auctions.
Love it.
Then after this auction ends, I'll get the wine to people. And then when the halving happens, when that finally comes, I'll release the remainder of the 210 bottles. And those will be first come, first serve on my website, peonylanewine.com.
Yo, shouts out to Sat Stacker, whoever that is on Scarcity, bro. He's got the highest bids on.
Is that GOAT?
I don't know. He's got the highest bids on the first bottle and the 21st bottle. Absolute legend.
Yeah, absolute legend. Anyways, guys, go to Scarce City right now and
Scarce.city. It's on the first page.
Scarce.city and check out Satoshi's Reserve to get yourself some awesome wine by a fellow Bitcoiner. Was it Vintner? Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. I do want to give a very special shout out to our guest, Ben. Thank you so Ben69. Thank you so much for joining us today and representing the Council of Bens. I appreciate it. And bro, the Bens just have winemakers and
you know, I'm gonna go on record. I think I'm becoming a little more pro Ben after today's show. Shouts out to the anti Ben, but you know me, I sit on the fence, and today I'm feeling a little pro Ben.
Bars.
Ben's appreciate you.
I'm a pro Ben propagandist on today's show.
Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the show and you know what to do, smash that like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. But the number one thing you could do to help push the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, share Bitcoin content, share Bitcoin culture. That includes wines, music, media, anything. Really helps push the orange revolution.
Share some Bitcoin wine.
Shout out to, I think we got $140 or something in super chats today. So shout out to everybody in the audience for supporting the show. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Ben, for joining us. We got lightning.
Wait, before we go, Nico, Ben, where can people find you for the audio listeners? The YouTube gets it, but for the audio listeners, where do you want to push people?
Yeah, so the auction's going on. It'll end at 3 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. I can only ship in the United States, so more of a United States thing for all my wine, actually. But it is scarce.city.
That's racist.
So period, scarce.city. Ask the regulators, man. They want to keep my wine in the United States. And then my website is peonylanewine.com. So PEONY lanewine.com. That's where I ship all my other wines all around the United States. They're all the same, super high quality natural wines, bunch of different varieties on there. And then you can find me on Twitter at Ben Justman.
Yeah, also guys, Ben is not, let me mute Nico. Ben is not just a vintner. He's actually a prolific memer in his own right. So go follow him on Twitter.
Oh, we got a vintner memer. Bro, Bitcoiners are awesome, bro. Oh my God. Okay. Anyways, guys, smash the like button. Consider subscribing. We will see you tomorrow for a brand new episode live from Dallas, Texas of Simply Bitcoin Live. And we'll be live from the BitBlock Boom floor on Saturday to stream you guys the conference and also to do some panels in between, some kind of intermissions and all that. So we love you all. Appreciate y'all. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.